This is part 3 of our thesis presentation. If you're starting with this part, please back up and watch parts 1 and 2 first.
So as we were saying with the data results, these are some graphs and tables. First, we're going to look at the student pre-assessment results. Now, the first graph on your left has to do with question 1 and 2 that were given to the students. This goes over Common Core State Standard 3 NBT 1. In the light blue, those are students that have gotten the answers correctly, and in the dark blue, it is students that have gotten the questions incorrectly. So as I can tell, that most students got these 2 questions incorrectly, so this is something that I would need to focus on during tutoring. On the graph on the right, it goes over questions 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 that were given to the students. Once again, the light blue is what students got correct, and the dark blue is what students got incorrect. And those questions go with Common Core State Standard 3 NBT 2. So as I can see, questions 3, 4, and 5 are somewhere that I need to focus on within tutoring, and questions 6 and 7 are ones that students really understood and knew how to solve, so they aren't ones that I'm going to focus primarily on. This is another graph of weekly student exit slips. Now the scores are on the right, or on the left, excuse me, and the student numbers are on the bottom, so student 1 through 15. And week 1 is in blue, so as you can see, most of the students received a 3, and a 3 means they understood it and they solved it correctly. A 2 is that they maybe got one thing incorrect within solving the problem, and a 1, which no students got ever, was that they didn't solve it correctly at all. There was no understanding. So some of the weeks there were students that did not understand fully. They missed one section of the problem, so this is something that I could focus on with them throughout the math day in the classroom. Then this is a graph with percentages. Now, 100% is all the way on the right, and then 0%. So like I was saying before, the light blue is the starting percentages, and the dark blue is the ending percentages. So as you can see, almost every single student moved up with their percentages after tutoring was done. So students started between a 75 and a 79%. That's what we considered the on-the-cusp students. And every student besides 1 is above proficiency level now. They are in the 80 to 95% range.
Okay, we're going to talk about the conclusions and further research. Some of the conclusions that we reached were that on-the-cusp students were the ones that were having the most difficulty being overlooked in the classroom during an academic subject setting, because the lower kids, again, were being pulled out to table group. The higher kids are able to function on their own. So it was in fact true that the on-the-cusp students were the ones left struggling at their seats and needed more individualized attention for proficiency gain. By pulling in the students for one-on-one individual attention through the tutoring we did in mathematics, it gave them an opportunity to not only be retaught strategies and key points from the unit to better understand that information if there was any misconceptions or misunderstandings about how to solve the problems. It also helped that we utilized front loading so that the students were able to access the material better when the dog's making me laugh when they were coming into the school for the normal academic period for math. We also saw that through a number of our data collection methods, like the parent questionnaires, the exit slips, the various 2 quizzes and the tests that we gave, that all of this collected together helped us to make sure that we were collecting the data accurately. We got a broader idea of how the students were actually gaining proficiency during the tutoring period and how they improved their abilities as we went through. By using a model where we did both front loading and reteaching, it helps them to maximize their learning capabilities throughout the mathematic unit. And all but 1 student ended up gaining proficiency points by the time we closed the math unit and stopped the tutoring sessions.
And then some recommendations that we would have if there was ever future research on this is that educators need to be skillful in identifying the instruction program that they would like to use. So make sure that you are weighing out potential effectiveness and efficiency as possible. So make sure that this is actually something, the tutoring is actually something that's given and can be successful for these students. So you're not just saying you're tutoring to tutor. There's actually a program that you're going to follow and a plan that you have, so that each student is able to gain those successes. And then also through effective analysis of test scores, work samples, class discussions, and student questionnaires, on the cusp students can be identified. So depending on what proficiency level you want your students to be at or what percentage, we chose to pick the 75 to 79% because those are the students that could be pushed towards that 80%, which is that proficiency level. And then also sufficient time needs to be given to collect data. So we only did it for a 3-week period. You could do it for longer. You might be able to see more growth within that, but being able to do this within the program and the time given, we even seeing results in those 3 weeks was very successful. And then also tutoring, future research could determine if tutoring for on the cusp students was the same results could be given. So will this in a different setting be as successful as it was with us?
Okay, so we're going to open up the floor to questions now. Who'd like to start?
I'd like to go. Again, I'm Carly. I'm a elementary speech language pathologist, and being a part of the RTI Tier 3 process with special education, tutoring provides an immense amount of information for people who work in special education, because if students don't make growth quickly, then that gives us more information if there is a true learning disability. So though I don't teach math and work with multiple grades, this presentation was very informative, and tutoring provides information to lots of professionals that work with our students. And with that comment, I have a specific question, because I do work mostly with small groups with children, and really look at their behavior with their confidence in the whole group classroom. So how soon did you see behavioral changes within the students who attended tutoring?
So the students that attended tutoring, I would say the first week they kind of thought of it as something that was totally different. They were targeted as those different kids. They went to morning tutoring. It was something that was a little unfamiliar. But by the second week, when they actually saw what they were doing and that they had that confidence level of, I know what's going on within the classroom, it was very interesting to see how that behavior within the classroom skyrocketed. So I would say within week 2, week 1, they were still a little uncomfortable. Week 2, they were definitely comfortable. And week 3, they felt like they totally knew everything.
And from working in your class, Ms. Johnson, it seems to me that the students that benefited from the tutoring, they felt to be more accountable and initiated more. Did you see that in the classroom too?
Yes, definitely. So I felt like they almost felt like they were mini teachers in a sense. Right. So they were the ones that knew that information over other students.
Cool.
Okay. And I'm Ann, and I teach the K1. And I have a question, if you had to do this again, would you change the logistics of it? For example, the days, the time, the length of the tutoring?
I think that before we got started, we tried to emphasize what our goals were, and specifically for our model of tutoring, where we wanted to incorporate both reteaching and front-loading opportunities. The format that we used actually was successful because we incorporated days of the week that allowed for review, because you're later in the week and you're able to review what had already been covered that week. But you also have a session earlier in the week so that you can be front loading, things that are going to be coming up during the week. So that we did like that format. Also we chose 30 minutes because of a lot of the research during our lit review that we found was a maximum amount of time, especially for the age group that she was tutoring when she was doing her sessions. So for third grade, if you wanted to emphasize front loading and reteaching, we did like the format. If you were working with an older set of kids, you might want to modify the amount of time to possibly a 40 or 45-minute session because they have a longer attention span. But when you're working with the little ones, 30 minutes worked well.
I'm Susie. I teach third grade. It seems you had a big success within mathematics. Do you think this type of tutoring would translate into another subject area? And do you think it would yield the same results?
I'll take that one too because I actually am a single subject teacher working with Melissa on this. So I teach social studies to 7th and 8th grade students. And watching through the process, I actually did like the different styles. You can set up tutoring, as you guys know, millions of different ways. I liked the format of having a reteach and a front-loading opportunity, and even with something that's more social and does build off of each other but doesn't completely scaffold as much as math does, something like social studies that has less of a very structured, rigid scaffolding method, it would still work in a social studies model to be able to reteach and front load as you're going. Now that being said, just like I was addressing and before, because I work with older kids, I would probably have a different time model, maybe about a 45-minute session. But from a social studies perspective and with a different age group perspective, I did think the way that we utilized our time and how we formatted the tutoring would be successful with another age group and a different subject matter.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions?
Hi, I'm Monica, 5th grade teacher. Do you believe that tutoring could help students who are academically failing instead of just on the cusp?
So when looking at that, I think that with those on the cusp kids, those are the kids that need to be, we focused on them because after all of our research, we noticed that they're the ones that could be pushed to proficiency very easily. Now, if you're looking at students that are academically failing, I believe that of course this would definitely work because you are still front loading that information. And then also it's a tier 2 intervention. Being able to weed out whether tutoring has helped them become successful is another just another step in an intervention that could be done for those students.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Very informative. Excellent.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for your time, ladies.
Yes,
Thank you.
we just want to say thank you and
Yeah, thank you very much. So that's Rachel Fox Gordino
Melissa Diane Johnson.
presenting our thesis. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.